When we think of a confined space, it's probably the obvious ones that spring to mind. Things like tanks, sewers, silos, flues. But it's not just the size of the space that makes it confined. There are also the conditions that exist there. Conditions that may be caused by the actual work being done, like spray painting in a poorly ventilated room, or during the actual manufacture of something like a fuselage. If you or your employee are working in a space that's largely enclosed, and if there's a reasonably foreseeable risk of serious injury, then you're working with a confined space. And as such, you now fall under the Confined Spaces Regulations 1997. 15 workers are killed in confined spaces in the UK each year, and many more are injured. Workers in confined spaces stay alive best through safe systems of work and adequate preparation. Once you've established the fact there's no alternative but to go into the confined space to do the work, the first thing you need to do is assess the risks and work out what precautions to take. As a rule, you'd look at the task itself, the working environment, the materials and tools to be used, and whether or not the workers themselves are up to the task. In making your assessment, make sure you use all the information available about the confined space. Engineering drawings, working plans, soil or geological surveys. Look at these and any other available information along with records from previous work undertaken in the space and plans for future work. Talk with your employees and their representatives. See what they know and make sure they're up to speed on what the risks could be. You also need to be sure that your contractors are competent. So, what are the risks? What can go wrong? The biggest causes of emergency situations are lack of oxygen, asphyxiation from other fumes and gases, fire and explosion, and being overrun by free-flowing matter. Rescuers rushing in to save a colleague can just as easily fall victim to the same emergency. You've devised a plan. Now it's critical that everyone follows the plan to avert a double catastrophe. There need to be properly trained people ready at hand. They need to be sufficiently fit to carry out their task and capable of using any equipment provided for rescue. As first aiders, they should be trained to deal with the foreseeable injuries until professional medical help arrives. And rescuers themselves also need to be protected against the cause of the emergency. What equipment do you have on the scene? Bearing in mind the risks of working in confined spaces, likely equipment would include lifelines and lifting equipment, additional sets of breathing apparatus, first aid gear, and possibly firefighting equipment. This gear should be kept near the entrance, and the person on the scene must be trained in using the equipment and in appropriate techniques.